You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
I'm Dajc, chairman of Serbian Cricket Federation, still playing, although not that fantastic as maybe before. And we've been running cricket in Serbia since 2007. And we are quite proud as how Cricket Serbia developed, because it has most of its strong base based on growth development. And yeah, I mean, I'm taking opportunity of working in academia and having enough time to both play and manage cricket in Serbia, but none of that would be possible without really fantastic board. So we are very lucky that since the earliest days of cricket in Serbia, we're able to get some fantastic back then young students. Now they're not students anymore, and that's how things start rolling. And it's really great to be on Dibbly Dobbly podcast with our host Jack.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. And on the podcast, we have started a new series on the podcast looking at associate nations within cricket and how they are developing the game in their country. And many of us cricket fans know so much about the established cricketing countries and not enough on the associate nations who play cricket. So it would be nice to learn more about those associate countries, and via the podcast, people can learn more as well. For today's Associate Cricket Series episode, we are discussing all things Serbia cricket. And joining me to discuss and talk all things Serbia cricket is the chairman of the Serbian Cricket Federation, Haris Dajc. Haris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.
Oh, it's great to have you here, Haris, and thank you for giving up your time today to speak to us about Serbian cricket, which I'm looking forward to, something I haven't really delved into in my cricketing journey over the years, and same with our many listeners and watchers of the podcast as well. It'll be a new experience for them, but this is what we started the Associate Cricket Series on the podcast for this reason, for people to learn more about these associate countries and the good people behind the scenes like yourself and the team over there in Serbian cricket, how you're promoting and growing the sport of cricket in Serbia. So I think it's going to be an eye-opener for everyone today, Haris, and definitely I'm really looking forward to our chat today. So thank you once again for giving up your time to come and speak to us about Serbian cricket. Before we do that, Haris, as I do with all my guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, I like to take them back to when they first got into cricket. And it's been very fascinating listening to people's memories on how they started to get into cricket. So, Haris, let's go back to the very beginning of your cricket journey. What were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket?
Well, we're starting with confessions. Okay. Well, the first memories of watching cricket live was 2003 in a very obscure village of Grocka. I mean, it's more than a village, but then we played basically rugby on a village football ground against Scottish amateur side, and that was painful experience, as you can guess. I was playing back then for Serbian team. But what was rather interesting that these Scottish guys, after the match of rugby, they started playing another sport called cricket. I mean, they played it in a very chill manner, nothing too complex. And for me, that was the first time I was exposed to this virus of cricket. So it was 2003 in Borča. I was still more passionate about rugby, but as years passed, you get injured. So you have to think about other activities. And although I became rugby referee and coach, I really enjoyed refereeing a lot. I'm with some other friends from rugby, and I will especially mention my colleague and a close friend, Vladimir Ninkovic, who was also a former rugby player and referee. We already saw 2006. Okay, we're pathetic now when it comes to our quality of rugby. Although I managed to play for a few years more, taking advantage of this university competition where all other players were quite new to the game. But then 2006, 2007, there are like some, we saw some news about Red Star Rugby Cricket Club, but that was just on paper. So in reality, there was nothing. And then the turning point, frankly speaking, after being exposed to rugby by our Scottish friends, with some of them later, we became very good, like John Risman, who is, I think he's in Hall of Fame of Rugby League. His father played both codes, Union and League. So he was he still is very active, living in a lovely Cockermouth in North England, close to Lake District. So he was pushing us, guys. I mean, pick up cricket. I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, there's no contact. Although, yeah, there is. It's not such an easy peasy game. But then we had some really nice sailing in 2007, and then we're trying again to find Red Star. And I would say after one of the nice gales in Cycladic archipelagos between Paros heading north, we said, okay, so this is the divine moment when you know that you have to do something. So the divine moment was, I would say, a result of this pressure of wind and waves, and say, okay, so let's finally do it once we're back in Belgrade. So the first training happened in September 2007, and luckily Vlada's friend from the faculty, he was studying Spanish language and literature, was dating an Indian guy who very happily accepted our invitation and said, okay, guys, I'll teach you cricket. So he came for the first practice, but he was lazy to show up later on. So it was Vlada, myself, Ambrish was the name of this friend of ours who later joined us again, and he really helped us very much. And two other friends from my childhood, Darko Ivic, who is an architect in Paris now, and Nenad Dugic, who is a vet from Belgrade, but then he later became an IT programmer. I mean, that's, I guess, easier job than to take care of little animals. We were very lucky that back then we had also help from the British Embassy and Indian Embassy. So from British Embassy, it was back then Second Secretary of the Embassy, Kate Lawrence. And from Indian Embassy, it was Mr. Nayar. And then we also got help from some of the son of ambassador from Pakistani Embassy, Nasir Muhammad, who was also then joined us in the practicing. So it was rather strange that in a matter of months before the winter, this number of people who were playing cricket at Belgrade Fortress lower ground just went from 4 or 5 up to dozens. So in by spring 2008, it was like a little fiesta there. And then in the meantime, we organized our first clubs, my club, Stari Grad, and Vlada's club, Mirjevo. So it was rather strange. You don't even have enough players for one team, or you're struggling, but you're organizing 2 clubs. But it was like I would say it was a long-term idea that once we have enough of players, we already can structure them within 2 clubs. And that's how it started, basically. And then we were also lucky that very much thanks to Nesha's social skills, we got to these students from Dajc that were mostly into engineering, science, and punk music. So apparently this love to punk music connected Nesha with one of the most important guys from this small town, medium-sized town place in Serbia called Dajc, who was then studying in Belgrade with his mates, and his name is Slobodan Tosic, or just shortly Slova. So then he founded the third team, 2008, and by 2009 we had enough of players, meaning like 40 some, that we could divide all the players between our 3 teams. So in 2009, once we had 3 teams from Serbia, 2 from Belgrade, 1 from outside of Belgrade, we basically organized a governing body, and we had our first championship that was very ambitiously in 40 overs format. So you can imagine how we, as a self-taught cricketers, were able to play that. So very often people were out below 100. The other big push for development of Serbian cricket came from very well known in this more alternative part of European cricket, Abraham brothers. So Timothy and Andrew Abraham, originally from Liverpool, they were organizing this famous Gavrilo Princip tour that sounded a bit political, but what you can do. So what was their aim was to travel all these former Austrian-Hungarian cities and countries, and then end up somewhere in the Balkans. So they made this like great tour in 2009, and we had a game against them 2009, early June, in one very picturesque village close to Belgrade that was used by Royal Air Force during the World War II as an improvised airfield during this last operation against Nazis and Quislings in spring 1945. So that literally next to this completely now you can't even recognize that that used to be airfield. We had our first game of cricket that was a game between Belgrade Cricket Academy, Belgrade Cricket Association, and Carmarthen District Cricket Club from North Wales. We lost, although we made sure that they will be as tipsy as possible. But for my own personal humble records, I was super happy I took the first wicket. And then the first wicket that I took was James Coyne, a very good friend of ours, and he really helped a lot in promotion of game, basically globally, but also in Serbia. He's now working for both Cricketer and Wisni Almanach. And he said, like, well, you know, I felt a bit miserable when I was out, but when I saw how you guys were happy, like, I don't know, like you got the jackpot, okay, let's do it for the team. And yeah, that were like the first memories and the first great boost that we somehow managed to keep up that level of happiness until now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing those memories with us there, Harris.
Well, it's confession, so yeah, what we can do.
How would you describe yourself as a cricketer, if you had to describe yourself?
Well, I was so great as a batsman that after a few years, when we were taking this L1 course, this ECB level 1, back then the coach that we had from Kent, Ian Wilmot, he said, you know, Harry, okay, why don't you try to bat like a lefty? And maybe that was the best advice when it comes to my betting performances, that I would say I could live for 10, 20 overs, but then the score will be rather low. So if you would like to kill a game of T20 successfully, I would suggest you to put me in the first 5, and then you can make sure I will keep the wicket, but the score won't be too ambitious. So I'm a bit more of a bowler, and my bowling, I mean, I don't know. I'm lucky that we're still playing on a rather, let's say, modest level. So in this respect, as long as you're keeping the decent line, although my pace went from medium fast to terribly medium slow without any spin, I still get some wickets because, you know, there is this cruelty in cricket where you want to hit every ball, and some of them apparently sometimes you get caught. So yeah, my bowling last year was not that great as 2 seasons ago, when modestly I was for the 4 times best bowler of the season in Serbia. But yeah, I would just, and on the other hand, I think I can bear the sun very well. So that's also one of the advantages when other people are hammered by the sun and they collapse. I'm still enjoying grilling on the ground.
Absolutely, definitely. Wonderful to hear that, Harris, that you still have the enjoyment for the game as you get on and on a little bit in age, obviously. But that's the beauty of cricket. Yeah. You can still play cricket at a certain age into your 40s or 50s or 60s, even to your 70s and 80s in some cases.
That's why we very early established the B division. So that's like safe harbors for all of us that still want to pretend to stay up, to be a players. That there is a safe place, so it's kind of it's a safe house for aging cricketers.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Well, that's what the game of cricket's all about. Is you can still be a part of it at any age of life, which is fantastic. And thank you for sharing those memories of your introduction into the game, Harris. I always find it interesting whenever I interview any guests on the podcast. I always find it fascinating when they tell me their memories into the game of cricket, because everyone's similar in terms of their introduction into the game. I watched it on TV, or I bumped into this person. He said, hey, give cricket a go, or something like that. So yeah, just thank you for sharing those memories with us, Harris, and much appreciate you sharing those memories with us of how you got into the game, and obviously still love it and still enthusiastic, and you know, doing all you can to help and grow the sport in Serbia, which we'll talk about as we get into our chat deeper and deeper today. So thank you for that, Harris.
Pleasure.
So Harris, I thought to start this interview on Serbia cricket, let's talk about the history of cricket in Serbia, because you can learn a lot about cricket from its history. And the history of cricket in Serbia is quite interesting. So Harris, give us a brief overview on the history of cricket in Serbia.
Yeah, thank you. So there are like few attempts to establish cricket in Serbia before few of us that I just mentioned before started it back in 2007. Unfortunately, none of these attempts managed to survive more than a few practices or maybe a match or two. But it's worth noticing that apparently like first two matches happened somewhere in some villages in Vojvodina, but back in early 2000s, but nothing happened afterwards. So when it comes to the history of Serbia, we could say that it's constant, and it's we can follow it without any breaks, even during pandemics since 2007. What was our aim when we started cricket in Serbia? As I mentioned before, both Vlada and myself, we were engaged in both rugby union and rugby league, and then I just like these grass sports. So the benefit of that was that we could use the experience from being engaged in these two sports before, just to know what kind of pattern would you like to develop and what were like main challenges for our growth. On the other hand, the downside of Serbia is that it's not part of EU, meaning that our expat community is unfortunately rather small. So that also pushed us to focus on homegrown development. And that literally meant that in one moment, I think the total population of Indians in whole Serbia was below 70. So that's ridiculously low. Now that changed quite. When it comes to population of Pakistani, it was even less. When it comes to other South Asians, that was just a fringe. So all these circumstances led to the very obvious conclusion that you have to basically build up the homegrown base. And that's what we did. We used very much these first T20 championships that were then broadcast on Eurosport. So Vlada did fantastic commenting. And that was very helpful because through that, we found quite some Serbian players that used to play cricket in countries like Botswana, in the case of Stefan, in countries like Zimbabwe, like the case of Nebojša, also another great player and our umpire nowadays. So this helped us to recruit a bit more of the players, and especially young players that were keen cricketers. Who also helped us in a bit of promotion was a very famous BBC journalist who apparently then got in love in Serbia, I think in early 70s, and just decided to stay back then in Yugoslavia, Timothy Byford. And then he was also one of our umpires, although in quite a senior age, he was doing his best. He said, like, I can't believe that I managed to live to the day where I'm going to see cricket being played in Serbia. So what was important was to make sure the visibility is there, so we could attract all these people that had some connections with cricket before, and that were happy that finally there is organized cricket in Serbia. On the other hand, what we also understood for the growth of the game is when it comes to the sport, it's very much connected with money issue. So with the social disadvantages to some groups. So in this respect, we started very early going into schools, basically our former primary schools and drama schools that we were going before as the pupils, and we offered it completely for free. And that was also a big boost, because at the end of the day, we need youngsters, we need youth, we need the new generation. So in this respect, I would say that this helped us to build up the second, and now we have the third generation of the cricketers that are already part of the senior national team, and they really brought up quality much higher. Because if it was up to Darko, Neša, Vlada, and myself to play for the national team, that would be a bit, let's say, that wouldn't be that optimistic. So this also helped, and other focus that we had were on these like social endangered groups. Because if you think about the Europe, you have so many of different states that are national states, but in reality, you have dozens of minorities. So one of the biggest minorities in Serbia that we have that is quite underrepresented when it comes to sport is Roma minority. And they're fantastically sporty because they are very often, they are just like engaged in different outdoor activities. So then we reached out to them, and that proved to be like quite a big success. So I'm very proud to say that I think since 2013, we have the only Roma club in, at least as far as we know, in Serbia, in any sport, and that is from village of Bački Monoštor, that's close to the border of Hungary and Croatia. And these guys are fantastic. The only downside is that because of the social situation, very often once they are 20, 21, they go to Austria, Germany, elsewhere, so we lose them. But then in this early age, as a teenagers or like young adults, we have really incredible cricketers. So that was one group that we benefited a lot. And then we also understood that it's crucial to go outside of these like central municipalities in Belgrade and reach out to these kids coming from these, let's say, semi-urban areas of let's say, of Greater Belgrade. And that's where we also found quite a lot of very talented young players, and quite a lot of them were Roma. So that was like big boost. And another thing that I have to mention is work with refugees, mostly Afghans, that we started back 2014. We went for the first time in Obrenovac, that apparently later will become one of the biggest camps for them in Serbia on this whole route from Afghanistan to Western Europe. But then in 2015, when this wave of refugees became really big, since then we were really lucky to have dozens of them, and some of them were the best cricketers we ever played against. And then on the other hand, it's a win-win. We have great players, we give them pleasure, and they are then happy to play cricket after a few thousands kilometers walking. We can just imagine what kind of conditions. Yeah. So basically, that's the history of cricket in Serbia. A part of that, so since 2009, we are playing a competition, both 40 overs in 2020. 1 year before COVID, we stopped with 40 overs competition because we understood like that won't get us anywhere. And at the same time, the ICC is very clear with all these associate members that the only pathway for us, for the senior, is in T20 cricket. So that's why we put far more focus on T20. And frankly, our quality now improved a lot. But then why to push for 40 overs when T20 is absolutely fine? Since 2030, we have organized matches, organized tournaments for youngsters, mostly indoor, but also outdoor. And we had the first female team back in 2010-11, but it didn't pick up. But then that was 2 years ago, we again pushed to get some of the new women's for our women team, and that's very much thanks to Magdalena Nikolic, who was one of these young kids that we recruited back in 2010 when she was in grammar school, and she became one of the most furious cricketers we have. And then she said, okay, yeah, let's do it. So in a matter of few months, late spring, early summer, we managed to build up a women's team that then went and played their first international matches in Romania. They lost all of the matches, but it was a decent effort from them. And since then, they had another big tournament last year in Corfu, where it was more competitive, but still they didn't win the first place. But it's not only about winning. There is some bizarre, let's say, satisfaction in frustration when you lose a match of cricket. So this year we'll have first time ever fully women's championship. First time ever we're also going to have under 15 girls hardball cricket, and of course we have boys hardball cricket that you used to have before. So there are quite some big changes, and I would definitely emphasize the collaboration with MCC Foundation, because that gave us a really big boost, as their logic and their vision of cricket very much overlaps with ours. So they recognized us as a really as a partner that has a same mentality and ideas. So thanks to them, we managed to develop this really big project of Lions League. It's called because our Pashtuni friends likes to be called Lions. So that was really a big championship last year. We had over 600 Afghans playing and practicing, and we had 6 teams. So that all lasted from June until October, and then we continued like a winter championship with them. But along with that, idea was, okay, we don't only focus on senior side, we also develop these hubs, and that was also a very important project of MCC Foundation, that apparently now they're collaborating with ECB. And the idea is that you make hubs in these areas where cricket is really not that developed, or if the cricket is developed because of these social issues, these players can't really develop very much as a proper batsman, because they don't face enough of balls, they don't play enough of hardball cricket, etc. So in a way, they allow us to use their methodology in developing these hubs in Belgrade, and this is now core of our youth development. So thanks to that, we're pushing up, and we are very happy that now in 5 days on Saturday we will play our first under 15 round of hardball girls under 15.
Yeah. Well,
so that's about history.
Yeah.
If this is all history / present time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Harris. That brief overview on the history of the game in Serbia, how it became to be, and how it was established, and how the game has taken off from those early days. So no doubt people listening to this episode of the podcast would be wanting to research more, and that's what you do in the history of cricket. That's what I do, being a cricket tragic and all. You always want to dive into the history of the game in certain parts of the world and countries, and I think a lot of people will be doing that for Serbia cricket as well, looking into the internet and researching, and just seeing how the game has taken off there, like in many parts of the world. So.
We were lucky that a BBC journalist made a really nice video about Serbian cricket back in 2010 in both Urdu and Hindu, so that was really like a big boost. And then we contributed to one of the articles for this chapter in Great Yellow Book of Cricket, Cricket Beyond the Test Nations back in 2010. So this was also a big thing. So there is quite some visibility of Serbian cricket, mostly in the UK, but also in Australia, and that also helped us to connect with diaspora both in UK and Australia, and they also helped and still are helping the growth of the game, and they are also very important, especially for the quality of the national team, because a part of the national team are basically players coming from those two established cricket nations.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, and couldn't agree more. Absolutely, that many people are helping out when they can, and want to help and give back to the game, and make cricket prosperous in Serbia. That's for sure. So once again, thank you, Harris, for sharing the history with us of cricket in Serbia. So Harris, let's talk about the Serbian national cricket teams, the women's and men's teams. Be good to gain your insights on the two teams and learn more about their achievements, the players' stories, because many of the players come from diverse backgrounds. So Harris, for those who may not know a lot about the Serbian women's and men's teams, can you tell us more about them, the players and some of their stories?
Yeah, thank you. So let's start with the women's team, because that sounds more attractive. And we are very proud that in a rather short period of time we managed to develop a women's team that can play competitive cricket on European level. When it comes to the team, apparently all of our players are either from Belgrade or from Serbia. The first captain was Magdalena Nikolic. She's a member of the board, and she's medical doctor nowadays. And she was the most important factor that pushed for development of that of women's cricket. Then we were very lucky that we got Slađana, who then became a new captain of the Serbian cricket team, and now she's a captain currently, and she's also very much involved in development of the women's cricket in Serbia. A part of two of them that are, let's say, the most I found them as the most important individuals to mention. we are very happy that we still have some students from my faculty, faculty philosophy, and also from the faculty nearby, faculty philology. Then we also have a few high school students like young Nadja, who is playing like senior side cricket on a very high level. I think she's better ball than me nowadays, and she's slightly younger, so that's okay. So she's really fantastic player, and we were also lucky that because of the bigger high visibility of women's cricket, we are also approached by some of the players that have Serbian origin. So we hope that Ana Mesarovic will also play for Serbia in upcoming tournaments that should be in late spring this year. So I think she'll be a high contribution to our team. And a part of that, it's mostly local girls and women. And I should also mention two Roma Bislimovic sisters that are incredibly talented, because we recruited them in one of these bit more impoverished parts of Belgrade in that high school. So they're also very good cricketers. That's it. Now when we have net sessions, sometimes you can even have like more girls playing or practicing than guys. So yeah, this is going very well. When it comes to the senior men's team, our favorite teams against which we played were Slovenians, Hungarians, and Bulgarians. Most of the matches we played against Bulgarians. Bulgaria is rather close, same that applies to Slovenia and Hungary. And we are on a rather similar level, although they have much bigger expat community. So then when it comes to the teams, our team was mostly based on homegrown players. But still, since the last qualification round that was in Finland 2 years ago, I would say our team improved. We got quite few of really outstanding players from Australia and from UK. And we think that now this new qualification round that will play in Germany in early July will be a good test for our boys. I'm very lucky that we have Bogdan Dugic, who is the main engine for his both coach and the player, and he was assistant coach to other coaches that normally were coming from the UK. At the moment, Bogdan is also a head coach, but we're also very damn happy to have Alexa Đorović, who used to play for New Zealand national team handball and for Serbia cricket also national team. So he is our director of sport, and basically they're doing also a great job in recruitment of new players from Australia and England that apparently won't be able ever to play for Australia or England, but there is chance to play for Serbia. So in this respect, for the senior team, we're trying to keep the balance between homegrown players, because they have to have a pathway. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, you're a great cricketer, but then somebody's going to come from, I don't know, from Manchester and take your place. So in this respect, we're trying to keep the balance, and we're doing that quite well, so that you have a part of the players coming from Serbia, and then some players coming from abroad, mostly from these two countries that I mentioned before. And it's going really well. That also helped us to build up this really fantastic team spirit. So one of our first players coming from the UK, Robin Vitas, apparently now he's a manager of the national team. He became one of the most important part of our senior side, all the more in the role of a manager. So I'm quite proud how this kind of grew basically without much interfering on the behalf of board, because that's outsourced to smarter among us, meaning Bogdan and Alexa.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it's very encouraging to hear that both teams are doing well in terms of their development and growth, and they want to learn more, and they're eager to learn as well. And you've got good people behind the scenes in terms of the support staff, coaches, and all that stuff. So that's good to hear. In terms of pressure on the teams, because in associate cricket, we know that the higher you finish in the rankings determines funding and money and that. Do you put that pressure on the teams, or you just say just go out and play and the rankings would take care of themselves? And
I think that's the right approach. I mean, we play cricket to win. That's obvious. but you don't have really to. You don't have to be Cesare Borgia for that. So you can. You should allow players to enjoy the matches, to enjoy the games. What would be ideal to have as many matches as possible. Downside when it comes to Europe, comparing to Africa and Asia, there is no sole European governing body as we used to have like 12 years ago or something. So why that is an issue? It's an issue because you don't have any European championship. So that is also, that leads to less of the sport on behalf of government. And this is something that might change in future. On the other hand, what was really big boost for growth of cricket is that ICC introduced that basically any matches between associate members can be T20I if you just follow certain regulations and rules that are, to be honest, rather nothing complicated. So in this respect, that gave opportunity for a lot of European nations to be engaged in more of cricket. Then another thing that also gave boost to the growth of cricket, but in a different format, T10, was ECN. That was started by the fellow Aussie and Daniel, who did a really great job with his Swiss partner. And I would say this also just proved that how there is a hunger for cricket in Europe. But when it comes to the scorecard and the funding, ICC is the most important partner in this respect. But then I would say in the case of Serbian cricket, we are really very happy that we're working with MCC Foundation. On the other hand, the thing is, there is a thing called European Commission, and there are all these projects that EU is helping for, and that means that it's a basically open market. You just have to apply. So in this respect, I would say that we're also rather lucky in this respect, applying for these Erasmus projects. And that also allow us to have extra income that will be then focused mostly on the growth of the game and organizing different competitions in Serbia. So in this respect, only to be frustrated with or to be obsessed with how many points you're going to get, it is important, but that's not the most important thing. You should think what's cricket philosophy of your own nation, how you want to grow it.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, you want to play cricket to win and take home trophies and results. That's what you want. Rankings will sort themselves out, but that's one of the things in associate cricket that many teams look out for, is that side of it, because that's just how it is when it comes to associate cricket and funding and distribution of funds. In terms of homegrown support for both the national teams, do people in Serbia get behind the national teams when they play at home and support them?
We're quite lucky that we managed to build quite a huge base of players and supporters, and they are helping. They're helping with different, mostly donations. They're helping by covering some of the development costs, etc. So in this respect, it can always grow, and it should grow, and this is like normal process. So we are quite happy with how it's developing. We have support from the government. That's not very high, but we are okay with that. And you can also apply for the support from the local governance, basically municipalities and boroughs, that we do. So this also helps the growth of local clubs. There is also help of the city of Belgrade. That's also important, especially for the youth. So we are capable of generating, I would say, 3 times more funds from our own means than what we get from ICC. And that's also something that, frankly speaking, ICC is also happy to see that the governing bodies of cricket are capable of being self-sustainable, not only depending on ICC funds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another big thing is that the cricket became again like part of Olympic family.
Yeah.
Although we can guess that there won't be that many places for cricket when we see it in LA, but still this gives this is like a very important from the European perspective, because most of the Ministry of Sports, they recognize these Olympic sports and others. And I would say this is a bit passé nowadays. No need for that, especially like in third decade of 21st century. But still, it's a big thing. So if the cricket take advantage of that, why not? So I would say this is something that will definitely give boost to the growth of game in Serbia, but I'm sure also in other European countries.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a big game changer, isn't it? The cricket in the Olympics is definitely a big game changer for associate nations to get that exposure across people on TV, or just get them interested in cricket. So it's definitely a win for the game of cricket, that's for sure. And it's good to hear that a lot of people are supporting the Serbian national teams in Serbia. So that's good to see that you got that support. In terms of underage, under 19 teams for both women's and men's, do you have any underage teams at the moment?
We have under 12 and under 15. Our focus is mostly on under 15. Why? Because once they turn 15, they can play for the senior sides. So in this respect, we don't wait for them 10 years, and then there is quite a high dropout in all sports. So in this respect, most of our focus is on this higher grades primary school, so age 10, 11 to 15, and also these high school kids. So as I mentioned earlier, we already had this indoor championship under 15, both boys and girls, 2 different competitions, and now they're going on the outdoor. So it will be T20 matches. So it won't be easy for them to completely shift from indoor other short formats of cricket to T20. So I think some of the scores might not be that high, but what we can do. So yeah, we are quite proud that also thanks to developing these hubs, we managed to generate enough of also girls to have separate competitions. And when it comes to under 19, we are not on this pathway of ICC because that will require 8 teams, and that's really hard to get. And then what's also a bit bizarre, that then they will play like 50 overs matches, and then later, once they become seniors, they play 2020. So maybe it has sense for some countries, but for us in Serbia, it doesn't. So now when it comes to underage, the focus is mostly on under 15, and then all these kids that are over under 15, that are like 16 and more, they can either play the first division or second division, depending on their quality, or in the case of the girls, they'll start playing this. They'll start playing women's championship that's kicking off in late May.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to know that you've got the depth and the talent coming through the ranks in terms of age group.
Because dropout is high, so we have to try to make them busy as much as possible, and to hope that the dropout won't be as high as normally it is, not only in cricket but in all other sports as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the national teams, their series and tournaments for this year, what's on the horizon for both the women's and the men's teams in terms of qualification tournaments and series?
So for domestic, the biggest thing is this series, the qualifications to Germany, where we play against Jersey, Switzerland, Belgium, and Croatia. So it's a tough group. We think it could be competitive with Croatia and Switzerland, but we'll see. In the meantime, we will have a series with Bulgaria and a few other nations, so that will happen late June. And then we will, our national team is going to play this ECN in Malaga in late September. In the meantime, we'll try to fix a few other series, both home and abroad. We'll be focusing on Cyprus and Malta, because these 2 nations are doing a great job when it comes to development of the game, as also as Bulgaria. When it comes to the women's team, we will play against Cypriot girls in 3rd week of June. That will be a home series. So we hope to play 4 to 5 T20 matches. And there is still an option of maybe hosting a small Balkans championship earlier in June, but we have to sort that out as early as possible, because everybody are busy. But we hope that we'll have one more series in Belgrade in early June, a part of this one with Cyprus, and then we will maybe have a match with the Turkish girls, with Turkish women, or Maltese later after summer. So those are the plans. Apparently, if you have 2 to 3 series per year, that's absolutely more than enough. If you want still to have them busy playing domestic championship. And then you have to take into consideration that in Europe we are spoiled, and then there is this famous thing called summer breaks, and then nobody in August, it's Ferragosta, nobody is around, and people should have holidays.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, enjoy your holidays. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that's good to hear that both teams are busy this year, which is what you want in associate cricket. You want to play as much cricket as you want, as you can, I should say, because many associate teams don't play enough, and that sort of stems their growth and development and getting better. So it's good to know that the Serbian national teams, women's and men's, are busy this year, Harris. So that's good to hear. And also, I think everyone listening and watching to this episode, Harris, would say that we wish both national teams all the best for this year, but also for the years to come. And I certainly will be keeping a close eye on how both teams go, and hopefully they will achieve a lot of great things and keep getting better and improving, and hopefully achieve great things and hopefully reach their goals and aspirations. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for Serbian cricket. Beware of Serbian cricket, everyone. They're coming. They're gonna shake up the associate world. So yeah, all the best.
Well, thank you. Well, I really hope that we'll have as many as possible viewers as we can, and also for all of Australians that have been watching this in next couple of days and weeks and months. Absolutely, they're more than welcome just to send us a message on the social platforms. We are on Instagram. We are also on Facebook, serbiacricket.com. So please just get in touch with us. We need players from with the Serbian origin from Australia and from UK. So don't be shy. There is place for everybody. We're also happy if any one of them would like just to travel around a bit of Europe. They can always engage in as a coaches. They can always engage in many other roles. So yeah, I mean it's not an island country. It's not summer all year round, but the cricket season is getting really long. So we start in outdoor in April, and last year we played until November. So that means there is if you have not such a great Australian winter, then you can always enjoy tropic temperatures in Belgrade and play some cricket until you get sunstroke.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good opportunity. So yeah, so let's hope that's the case, and hopefully people can go over to Serbia for the European summer, get out of the cold here in Australia, because it is autumn and winter now. So why not? If you're an aspiring cricketer or someone who loves the game, want to give back and help out.
Age doesn't matter. If you're retired and you have extra time, please come. I mean, there is plenty of work for both coaches, umpires, administrators. Please come. Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. So yeah, we, as I was saying before, Harris, we wish both the national teams all the best, and hope they achieve good things this year and for the years to come. And definitely everything that you've told us today in our chat about the national teams, it's in a good place. The future is bright and optimistic, and you should be proud of the work that you've put in to get to this point where you're at in this present time. And hopefully the fruits of your labor will certainly pay off in results and, wins and victories. Let's hope.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much for those kind words and for your time here. And it's been a pleasure. So yeah, I think future of Serbian cricket is always bright and pink. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Harris, I thought we'd talk about the growth and development of cricket within Serbia, and in terms of getting cricket into local communities, clubs, schools, and grassroots, etc. Harris, this is one of the challenges that many associate nations have, is how they introduce cricket and promote it. That's easier said than done. I'm sure you, as the chairman of the federation over there in Serbia, ask yourself these questions all the time. How do we establish cricket in the community, grassroots? How do we establish local cricket clubs and communities, competitions and pathways, systems, underage comps, having facilities? That's often a difficult one. Access to turf nets and turf wickets, and for people to access in their local areas to train. and making cricket accessible to everyone via on TV or streams, and trying to access the game, and also getting cricket into schools and their programs as well. So Harris, what challenges does the Serbian Cricket Federation have in trying to grow and develop cricket in the Serbian community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Serbia?
Well, thank you. That's very very relevant question. So two biggest challenges are infrastructure and numbers, and this is what you need to basically grow more. And then if you get higher numbers, then you can get even more of talents. If cricket will become mainstream sport in Serbia, I frankly doubt. There are the bigger sports in Serbia that declined. Still, we should remain positive. On the other hand, there is a lot of room for progress, especially in these areas where kids are not that much exposed to sports, or there is only football, but there is no option for girls. So in this respect, we are mostly focused on growth that's based on school level cricket, and then we basically connect these schools with local clubs. So in this respect, there is a clear pathway for school kids to join the clubs, to play matches as soon as possible, first indoor, softball cricket or windball, and then later they move to the hardball. So what is the aim is to try to grow this base of under 15 as much as possible, because later some of them will eventually drop. But if some of them continue playing cricket once they reach the age of high school, they are going to bring more of kids. So our focus is on that. And then we will also try to put more focus also on students, because that's also like a great target. So when it comes to facilities, we understood that it's easier to build as many nets as possible, but in whole proximity to the schools or where already is some cricket established. So at the moment we have cricket nets at 2 outdoor locations and 1 indoor location. Plus we have them in all of 4 Belgrade schools where we are active. There is also a cricket ground in this village in Monostor, northwest Serbia, but we need to develop more. The thing is, you need the numbers. Once you have numbers, then you also follow that with developing the infrastructure. We also have one more cricket ground completely just focused on cricket, but that is 70 kilometers from Belgrade, that we'll try to basically put back in use. So this is something that we are also trying to develop. The thing is, within the Serbia, 1/3 of the population is basically concentrated in Belgrade. So in this respect, as long as you have strong cricket in Belgrade, you have the future of cricket. So this is what we're aiming to have, like a bit more of a strongholds in some of the areas of Belgrade where kids don't have much of options apart of football for guys, and that's it. So yeah, we need definitely numbers and infrastructure, and that's it. And we need also more coaches and more cricketers volunteers, because at the end of the day, volunteers are the most important aspect of the game. They are the base, and most of us are engaged within the growth of cricket as volunteers, and that's quite a pleasure.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, it comes back to that, doesn't it? Money, funding, and associate cricket need a lot of those things to help them grow and develop the sport. But by the programs that you have in place, and all the programs and trying to integrate the sport into the community is certainly working, and it's certainly making an impact, which is fantastic. So it's good to hear that all the work that's being put in behind the scenes to grow and develop the game is certainly paying off in Serbia, and it's certainly making a difference and encouraging people to take up the sport. So long may that continue in the years to come. So thank you for sharing that with us, Harris.
You're welcome.
Harris, well, we've reached the end of our long interview, but I've really enjoyed it immensely on Serbian cricket. But we've got one more topic to talk about before we finish off today, Harris. And I thought we'd talk about what the future holds for cricket in Serbia. It's very hard to predict the future, as we know, very uncertain. But if you had to look into the crystal ball and cast your predictions, going into the future. So Haris, how do you see Serbian cricket and associate cricket going into the future to end our chat today?
Well, I'm an optimist. I think this boost with the Olympics is really important, and if other European nations also focus more on under 15, and if we manage to develop some kind of European championships that will be focused both on women and underage, I think that can really boost development of cricket in Europe. That's quite a shame that it's not developed more, although it's more developed than most people would think, because there is like over 30 countries playing cricket in Europe, and it's also a fantastic tool to integrate the newcomers, to integrate Afghans, to integrate people coming from South Asia more within the different European countries. So I believe that if all of these things overlap, and if there is a bit more of not short term but like mid-term and long-term strategy, that cricket can become one of the biggest sports in Europe, especially considering that the change of demography and of structure in population, and why not to take advantage of so many people coming from outside of Europe that are familiar with the game. And what is also crucial is to make sure to try to help them also to connect through cricket, mostly also to get locals into cricket, because that's the thing. It's crucial once you step out from your bubble. So you get out from your, I don't know, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, Aussie, or any other bubble, and you get to the local schools, you get local kids, and then that's a pure pleasure. So what they can follow, these tendencies are changing to better in other European countries as well. But it's this process could increase. And I would say women's cricket is one of the best tools how to basically spread cricket even more to the ordinary citizens that don't have cricket culture, because you really don't have to be born into cricket. That's a nonsense. You just have to pick it up. You have to start enjoying the game. There's so many formats of the game. So that's it. It's not black magic.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those predictions into the future, Haris, about Serbian cricket and also associate cricket, and let's see what happens in the years to come. So thank you for sharing that with us. Haris, thank you for joining me today for this Associate Cricket Series episode to discuss all things Serbian cricket. I've enjoyed it immensely and learned so much, as well as our listeners and watchers have as well. They've learned a lot from just listening to you speak about Serbian cricket so passionately and enthusiastically, which is fantastic. It shows that you care and you really want to do what you can to help cricket grow in Serbia, which is fantastic. So, Haris, if people want to get in touch with you or want to get in touch with the Serbian Cricket Federation for some inquiries, where can people do that?
Yeah, it's best to use social networks. So there is our page, Cricket Federacija Serbia, Serbian Cricket Federation, but in Serbian. So that's fine. And other way is through our website. There is an email there. They have contacts of a few other members of the board. And there is also other people use the other social network called Instagram. So our Instagram is quite active, both this main Instagram, but also like Lady Serbia Cricket. So they can just reach us there whenever they want, and we're happy to have them engaged in Serbian cricket in whatever capacity they would like and what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. We will leave links to those in the description of this episode for people to check out if they want to make some inquiries about cricket in Serbia. We'll definitely do that. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Also, the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Haris, for joining me today to discuss all things Serbian cricket. I hope all of you watching or listening to this Associate Cricket Series episode learned a lot about cricket in Serbia from Haris. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.